Okay, so we're going to run an intervention that's a combination of the other two interventions. We're going to have the contact rate and have the duration of infection. Okay? And here we're going to run it out. There we are. And, oh, my gosh, what happened? Let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to turn off. See this mode here? This is the mode to get AnyLogic to run as fast as possible. Okay? We don't want that mode in this case because it was out, going faster than we could see. Okay, so, oh gosh. Here we are. We're running it out. We could speed it up a bit. I don't mind speeding it up a bit, but I'll pause it. So what do you think happened here? Was that results? What you expected? Now we see a reduction in the low SES and the high SES associated with very significant reductions. So with one intervention alone, each of these interventions, lower contact rate, for example, led to an outcome that was, we had a peak of about 0.8, right? And this one was at 0.2 compared to the baseline where we had a peak of each of about 0.4 for the high SES and 0.2, and close to a little bit over it's like 0.9 for the, oh, no, it's above 0.9. It's close to 1 for the peak for the low SES. So each one would roughly reduce it by a factor of 2 for the high SES. Combining the two was not additive at all. So, this is for the baseline, and when we ran the single intervention alone, it went up, I think, to about 0.1 for the high SES. They each lowered it by a factor of about, it went up to 0.2, so it halved it for each. Combining together both, on the other hand, lowered it to about 0.1. By contrast, for the low SES, combining together both, with just each in isolation, it would lower to 0.8. Combined both, it lowered it quite a bit further, down to about 0.4, I believe. So the results are not necessarily additive for this, not at all. Now, I'm going to ask about one final component, though, here. We've been modifying, well, any questions on this intervention? Does anyone need help, the TAs? All we did is modified, TA help up here. Are you still helping? Sorry? Okay, maybe you can help with this one. Okay, so any questions on this? Yes?
We've just done some simple modifications
Yep.
to the experiment. Is
Yep.
it possible to set up a number of scenarios in advance, so we go from 1 to half to quarter,
Yeah.
and then just run them all at once?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we'll probably be seeing that tomorrow. Okay, so we could run it once. You can also run Monte Carlo experiments, drawing parameter values from distributions. There's a lot of options. You run the experiment one time, and it does all of these runs of the model and summarizes them and appropriate analytic mechanisms. Other questions? Yeah.
So as far as running the experiment more than once, will learn how to do it tomorrow?
Yes, we will. Yeah, that will be part of it. Yeah.
What if you have two different interventions after the cycle transition?
Right. That's a great question. So that would be okay. It would just presumably then that transition would, for example, involve two different parameter values used in different capacities. and in which case it would just use the updated values and get parameters accordingly. Okay? So that's good. I'd like to take this a little bit further, folks, bearing in mind that we have limited time here before lunch. So we're going to take it further in two directions. One thing is I'd like to take a look at further modifications of this in terms of sort of the extent of the interventions, okay? So here we're going to examine an additional intervention which will lower the duration of infection by a factor not of 2 but of 4. Okay, and this gets to what Mark was asking about there. So we're going to have quartered duration of infection. Okay. Okay. So all we're doing is we're adding a new scenario, and instead of having a duration of infection of 10, it's going to be instead what? A duration of infection of what? 2.5. Good. Okay? That's great. What do you think the result of that will be? Okay. Okay, that's further lowering things, right? So we could create a whole set of intervention examinations here that would further modify, the assumptions, the what-if assumptions brought to the table. Unfortunately, given the time available, we don't have time to go into look at different metrics for measuring the efficacy of the interventions right now before lunch. But suffice it to say, we could total up the number of people infected over time, not just look at the number infected at a given time. Or we could look at aspects of what fraction cumulatively were infected, for example, or how long they stayed infected, the cumulative life days. I'd like, though, to turn our attention to a more specific one. And I'm going to say, for a lot of health interventions, applying them to the population of a whole is kind of a blunt instrument. Often we focus on high-risk groups, right? We focus on groups which may be a subset of the population that's less than half, but which are of particular concern, which are where the burden of that infection is burden of that illness is particularly high, or which might have a disproportionate role in communicating or influencing the development of that burden within the population as a whole. So I'd like to think about modifying this model so that we intervene upon just a certain subgroup. Okay? Certain subgroup of the population. Now, there's several different ways that this could be undertaken within this model, okay? It turns out that there's a very elegant way of accomplishing this that AnyLogic provides that very few people comparatively know about. And I'm tempted sorely to show this to you. It's elegant, but it has a little bit of sophistication to it in terms of the concepts. But Dylan, what do you think? Should I loose the hounds and teach them about dynamic parameters and action parameters?
I'm going to leave that up to you, but we are getting kind of close to lunch.
Indeed, but I think this will be pretty quick. Okay? I know I stand between you and lunch, and I'm willing to accept that risk. Okay? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's two different ways we could do this that are foremost in my mind. Fine.
Okay, so we'll do it with this dynamic parameters and action parameters. Good. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to main. And we're going to add something to the model that you've never seen before. I can almost guarantee for the people in the population who have attended my boot camps, you won't have seen it before either. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording here, and